avoid making excuses. This may sound brutal, but let your yes be yes and let your no be no. Understand that no is a complete sentence. When you say no, you do not have to make excuses for why you're saying no. It is very common among us. I'm also guilty of that sometimes when I say no to someone, I feel the need to explain why I am saying no. No, you really do not have to do that. Because once you start making excuses for the reason why you say no, you're giving people reasons to poke at your excuses. And when people start poking at your excuses, they don't see them as valid. They don't even value those excuses that you're making, and in turn, they're going to resent you for it. Rather than if you had just said no, then you leave them wondering the reason why you said no. So you're not giving them an ammunition to hurt you. Hello ladies, hello gents. Thank you for being here today. My name is Mira Skinner, and you know that I do not take your presence here for granted. Have you ever been in a situation where you really want to say no to something, but you find yourself saying yes? That is people pleasing, and that's our topic for today. But before we dive right into this topic, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell. That way you know when we do have new uploads, and also share this video with your friends and your family so they can get to know what we're doing here on this channel. Let's dive right in, guys. There is a huge difference between people pleasing and being kind, and we often confuse one for the other. So we're going to go ahead and define people pleasing from the dictionary. It says, and I read, people pleasing is when we suppress and repress our own needs, desires, expectations, feelings, and opinions to put others ahead of ourselves so that we can gain attention, affection, validation, approval, and love. But on the other hand, kindness is when you're being caring and kind in spirit. You understand? But a person who is a people pleaser does these things without being happy in their spirit. They're just doing this because of all those reasons that we just mentioned. Sometimes it is hard for you to understand that you're a people pleaser unless someone has told you, or maybe you have taken the time out to actually, analyze who you are, where you're going to, and why you do things the way you do them. People pleasing usually stems from something that is deeper than we are willing to admit, or something that is deeper than we are willing to face. Because there are things that are going on in our lives that rather than us facing it, rather than us taking it head on, we decide to go the other route. One of the reasons of people pleasing is past experiences. People who have had traumatic experiences, who have experienced abuse, they may become people pleasers. And the reason why they are becoming people pleasers is because they want to be as agreeable as possible to other people so that they are not going to trigger abuse from these people. You understand what I'm saying? So you tend to be pleasing somebody because you feel like if you don't please this person, if you don't do this thing that they want, then you're going to trigger an abusive behavior from them. And because you're avoiding that, you tend to please them even when you're displeasing yourself in that process. Another reason for people pleasing is your own insecurities. People go above and beyond to please others because of the insecurities that lie within them, because they feel like if they do not do all those things, if they do not go above and beyond or do everything or do this person bidding, then the person is not going to love them. But what you fail to understand that if you're trying to do something for someone, which is a good thing, but if you're not doing it from a place of love, if you're not doing it from a place of happiness, if you're not doing it from a place of, genuinity, then you're only deceiving yourself and you will hurt yourself in the process. Because trying to be a people pleaser will not take you anywhere. It is something that you need to work on. It is something that you need to identify. Because the only way that you can stop a people pleasing attitude is to identify that you're a people pleaser and then accept it. When you do these two things, then you can begin to work on yourself to become a better person. In order to stop being a people pleaser, you have to first of all understand why you're that way. Understand why you're doing things the way you're doing. That is why I'm trying to elaborate on the causes of being a people pleaser, on the reasons why people become people pleasers. And another reason is because of self-esteem. When you lack self-esteem, you do not value your time, you do not value your desires, you do not even value your goals. And when you do not value your time, people will trample on you. When you do not value your desires, people will impose their desires on you. When you do not value yourself, people will make you feel like less of yourself. Because the more you have a low self-esteem, people will make you have it even more because they know that they can trample on you. So you have to understand all these reasons why you're trying to please people so that you can be able to, work on them. Another reason why someone may tend to become a people pleaser is because of the way they grew up. Say, for example, you grew up in a home where you didn't feel loved, because there are some parents that don't know how to show love to their children. They'll make the children feel like if they are not having good grades, if they are not doing house chores, if they are not doing the things that they want them to do, then they cannot love them. But that is not the way to go. And because they have grown this way and believe this, because people's belief system is their belief system, you can't take that away from them. So if someone grows up to think that they need to do something in order to be loved, then they will become people pleasers because they believe that you can't just love them for them. They need to actually do something for you to love them. Meanwhile, that is not always the case. Sometimes people will become people pleasers because they're trying to avoid conflict, or they're trying to avoid more stress than they already have in their lives. But when you're a people pleaser, you will gain more stress because you'll be doing all these things without being happy. Trying so hard to please people can and will come at a cost. It is very, very exhausting. And believe me when I say it is so exhausting, because that is something that I've been there, done that, and I can tell you with my full chest that it doesn't work. Because when you're trying so hard to please people, you find yourself depleting. You find yourself being stressed. You find yourself always thinking about what they are thinking about you. You find yourself always trying to do something more than what you've done because you feel like what you did was not enough. It is a constant circle. It is a constant turmoil that is going on within you, and that is something that you do not want, because it could actually lead to depression. It could actually lead to low self-esteem. When you spend your days thinking about everyone, thinking about their problems, thinking about how they think about you, how they see you, it becomes mentally draining. Then you do not even have the time to think about your goals. You don't even have the time to think about yourself. You do not have the time to do the things that actually make you happy. Because all this energy that you're taking and you're putting it in other people, if you could just put them in yourself, you will find yourself being happy. Because the same love that you're trying to get from people out there, you can give it to yourself. Sometimes you will hear people pleasers say there are not kind people out there. People are not nice and people are not treating them right. But you fail to understand that the same thing that you're criticizing about those people is the same thing that you're doing. Because if you cannot love yourself, how do you expect somebody else to love you? If you cannot treat yourself right, how do you expect somebody else to treat you right? Because people can see through you. They can feel that vibration that is coming from you. They can feel your energy, and they can tell when you're not being authentic. They can tell when you're doing something for something, not doing something because of who you are or because of your authentic self. As a people pleaser, you tend to do good things for the wrong reasons. And intention is always what matters, not even the deed, but the intention behind that deed. That you have to understand. Because no one's opinion of you should define you. As a people pleaser, you tend to define yourself by what other people think about you, and it is not that deep. People really do not care that much. But in your mind, you feel like they care too much. They don't. When you're a people pleaser, right, you're not true to who you are. You're not authentic. And because you're not authentic, you're going to miss a chance at true and real relationships. Because the bonds that you're forming from being a people pleaser is all based on lies. You're not actually showing who you are. And when you don't show who you are, you don't have real relationships. You don't derive happiness from the relationships that you're in because you're trying to please them or because you're doing things that you don't want to really do. Instead of you getting a chance at true relationships, right, you're fixated on these people. You're fixated on what they're thinking about you. And then you tend to resent them because you feel like they're having too much control over your life. When you're fixated on these people, right, on what they're thinking about you, on how they see you, you begin to lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, there'll come a time that you cannot even recognize you. And when you cannot recognize you, what happens? You start resenting these people. You start resenting yourself. You start feeling like you're not enough. You start feeling all these horrible things. You start being mentally drained, which is something that could be avoided if you could only accept where you are and try to move on from there. If you're unsure if you're a people pleaser or not, ask yourself this question when you're about to do anything. Am I doing this thing because it aligns with my values of being generous, of being kind? Or I'm doing this thing because of other people's expectation of me? When you can genuinely answer that question, then you will be able to tell if you're a people pleaser or not. Another sign that you're a people pleaser is when you tend to agree with people even when you feel differently. And this may look okay on the surface, but it is not. Because when you tend to agree with people just for the sake of agreeing or because you want them to like you, you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting this person. Because say, for example, you have a family meeting and everyone is voicing their opinion. They are trying to get to the bottom of something, or they are trying to come to a compromise. And then you, on the other hand, you don't feel the same way and you just accept for the sake of it. Then behind, or when you're with yourself, you start feeling bad for doing that because you know for a fact that you don't agree with it. Or say, for example, somebody really needs your opinion on something, but because you just want to make them feel good about themselves, you don't tell them what you really think. And when you don't tell people what you really think, you don't give them the chance to see things from other perspectives. You understand what I'm saying? Because when you tell people the way you feel, you give them the chance to see things from other perspectives. They can see that maybe your own opinion is even going to better their life more. Because when you always want to say things that you want people to hear, you're making them to fall short because they are coming to you because they need the help. But because you have become a people pleaser and it is inborn, it is something that you've cultivated, you've nurtured, you're unable to tell them the truth. And when you don't tell them the truth, they're not able to make an informed decision. Say, for example, you told them how you actually felt, then they'll be able to make a decision based on what they think and what you think. Therefore, they are getting another person's point of view. They're getting another person's opinion. So it is very important that if you find out that you're a people pleaser, you try to work on this, because it's not only going to save you, it is going to save the people that you love and the people around you. Another sign that you're a people pleaser is when turning people down is difficult for you. You feel like if you turn someone down, they're not going to like you, or you feel like if you turn someone down, they're going to get angry. When people ask you to do something, it doesn't mean that they don't have an alternative. It doesn't mean that it is a do or die. Most situations are not do or die. So yes, you can go ahead and say no to somebody. You can be able to say no without any repercussions. And even if there's a repercussion, then this person was not right for you in the first place. There is this thing called rejection, and people pleasing can stem from rejection. When you're always afraid that people are going to reject you, when you're always scared that if you don't do something, then they will not like you, when you're always scared that if you don't do their bidding, then they will reject you. What you fail to understand is that you're rejecting yourself in the process. And when you do reject yourself in the process, you may become resentful. So you're in turn doing the same thing to yourself that you don't want other people to do to you. So we've talked about the causes of people pleasing. We've talked about the signs of people pleasing. Now let's talk about how to overcome it. This is not something that you want to miss, guys. The number one way that you can take to, overcome being a people pleaser is to always hesitate before giving an answer. Don't give an answer on impulse. Always ask yourself questions before you respond to something. Say, for example, your friend comes to you and tells you that they need this favor from you. If it is something that you can do or something that you cannot do, you have to think about if it aligns with your schedule, if it aligns with your values, if it is something that you can do genuinely for them. So always take that time to determine if this is something that you can do before you answer someone. Because when you tend to answer people in impulse, you give a response that you really do not want, if you know what I'm saying. Number 2, set clear boundaries. You have to make people to understand that they cannot just roll over you. You're not always going to be available, because there are some things that you will not be able to meet up because of other commitments that you have. You cannot always squeeze yourself to do everything. You cannot stretch yourself too thin, because when you stretch yourself too thin, it's going to affect you. And when you're in this position, these people that you're trying to please will not be there to support you. It can be like a huge giant standing in front of you. It can be very scary to say no to people. It can be very scary not to always be available. But then you will thank yourself later, because this is something that you need to do for you. The way that you want other people to love you, love on you that same way. Because nobody, like I said, can love you the same way that you love yourself, or more than the way you love yourself. The next way is to avoid making excuses. This may sound brutal, but let your yes be yes and let your no be no. Understand that no is a complete sentence. When you say no, you do not have to make excuses for why you're saying no. It is very common among us. I'm also guilty of that sometimes when I say no to someone, I feel the need to explain why I am saying no. No, you really do not have to do that. Because once you start making excuses for the reason why you say no, you're giving people reasons to poke at your excuses. And when people start poking at your excuses, they don't see them as valid. They don't even value those excuses that you're making, and in turn, they're going to resent you for it. Rather than if you had just said no, then you leave them wondering the reason why you said no. So you're not giving them an ammunition to hurt you. You understand what I'm saying? I think that I'm speaking for most people when I say this. This is something that has happened to the best of us. Have you noticed that when you say no to someone, right, and you make an excuse for why you're saying no, they will in turn adjust their request to ensure that you can still do that thing? And maybe you are saying no because you don't want to do it at all, but because you have given them an excuse that they can adjust, then you will do this thing that you never wanted to do in the first place. And then you become angry for doing it. You'll be doing it and grumbling. You will not be doing it from your heart. So do not make excuses for why you're saying no to people. It may look brutal, but it is the way to go. Next way to overcome people pleasing is to love yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, you know that I'm a sucker for self-love. Self-love is not selfish. It is actually the antidote for low self-esteem. It is the antidote for low self-confidence. Because when you're busy loving on yourself, you don't have time to be thinking about what people are thinking about you. It is none of your business. Express how you feel in a respectful manner, without the fear of rejection, without fear of conflict. When you can get to this point, you will ask yourself what you've been doing all your life. You will start seeing good things happening to you. This is an amazing, amazing feeling. When you're able to come to a place of self-love, when you're able to bring yourself to a place where you're speaking to people and just being who you are and being authentic, then you will wonder what you've been doing all your life. Because most people who are people pleasers never attain their full potential, because they don't even have the time to work on those goals. They don't have the time to build themselves up. They don't have the time for self-development because they are preoccupied with other people. So today, get up and decide to become the best version of yourself. Invest in yourself and become somebody that you can be proud of. Thank you so much for watching to this video. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell, that way you know when we do have new uploads, and share this video with your friends and family. Love you all and do stay blessed. Bye.